On my kicker tonight, the power of investigative journalism was on awesome display this week across the entire world. 600 journalists sifted through nearly 12 million documents, now known as the Pandora Papers, and the seismic impact of their findings tore the earth like a nasty earthquake. Hats off to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, and indeed, hats off to every investigative journalist out there, because the proof is out there tonight that investigative journalism makes a difference. In a summary of their findings, the ICIJ says the Pandora Papers reveal the inner workings of a shadow economy that benefits the wealthy and the well-connected at the expense of everyone else. With the Pandora Papers leakage, investigative journalists have provided everyone, the rich and the poor, the mighty and the weak, all and sundry, with information that would have otherwise remained secrets all the way to the grave. Because of investigative journalists, some of the world's most powerful and wealthy persons are facing what they must find the most unlikely and the most uncomfortable accountability moment. And because of investigative journalism, the world has finally had the benefit of a bright torch pointing in the direction of its darkest financial corners that includes offshore bank accounts and in distant lands that act as dream tax havens. And so tonight, I celebrate investigative journalism and investigative journalists here at home and around the world. By exposing wrongdoing and holding the powerful to account, they perform the most selfless and sometimes the most thankless of all journalistic assignments. Investigative journalism comes at a great cost to those that practice it. Investigative journalists constantly put their lives and those of their families on the line. From hardcore criminals to organized gangs, and from crooked politicians to insecure and corrupt governments, the risks to investigative journalists come from all the four corners. It is courage and sheer resilience that drives good investigative journalists, the dogged pursuit for their accountability, no matter who, and greater public good, no matter what. Here at home, I have had the privilege and honor as editor to work with investigative journalists in various newsrooms in their determination to expose wrongdoing and the hypocrisy of the high and mighty. To all Kenyan investigative journalists, hats off for all your selfless service. Investigative journalists here in Kenya have told you about the dark financial dealings at the Masai Mara University in Narok, and how Ng'ombe Kubwa, big cow, for a senior administrator at the university, benefited from university funds, alongside, among others, her driver. And because of investigative journalism, the Mara Heist is now an ongoing corruption case in court. Investigative journalists here in Kenya have also told you about rogue elements and how they are facilitating the illicit trade in firearms, an expose that was greeted with predictable temperamental denial by government. And recently, investigative journalism has taken Kenyans through the dark alleys of the Kenya Power and Lighting Company that has also not just led to huge losses, but also astronomical electricity charges to consumers. In their summary of the Pandora Papers findings, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, termed the project the largest investigation in the history of journalism and the biggest journalistic partnership in history. In partnerships such as the ICIJ Pandora Papers lies the new strength of investigative journalism. I can't help imagining the next titles for the consortium say the Afya House papers, the NYS papers, the Kimwarer and Aror papers, or even the SGR files. Just imagine, investigative journalism makes a difference. That is my kicker.